That is $250,000, yes?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then $250,000 you've earned in 5 years. And if you were to save 10%, that means you would have how much? What's the mathematicians?
255 to
25.
$25,000.
10%
Yeah.
of $250,000 is $25,000.
No.
Now, how many of you got $25,000? Okay? Good. If you have $25,000, that means you've been doing what you're supposed to do. If you don't have $25,000, that means you're on the road to broke. It's all right. That doesn't make you say a bad word. Listen, I'm for real because, listen, money is not everything, but it's up there next to oxygen and air. You need that in your life.
Sure.
Listen, you have to have that in your life. You can't function and operate in this society without money. Don't let nobody fool you. If anyone tell you that they don't need money, they're lying to you. Right? If anyone tell you, you know, I'd rather have this, I don't need money, they lying to you. If you find someone who said they don't need money, tell them that you know of a worthy cause. Johnny Worthy, I'm a good cause. And I can take care of their money for them. Right? So if they don't need it, I can handle it for them. Because I can use that in my life. Because it costs a lot of money to live. The problem that we have as it relates to money is a mental problem. For real. We have a mental problem. Not that we're crazy, not a mental problem that we need to go to the insane asylum, but a mental problem that we need to break free of the bondage that our society and system put us in. Because understand something. It matters not what you know. Okay? It matters not what you believe. It matters more of what you think. Because thinking makes it so. Listen to me carefully. Thinking makes it so. How many of you have heard the universal law that says, as you think in your heart, what? So are you. Got a question?
No.
You were just saying.
No.
As you think in your heart, what? So are you. So what is that really saying to me? As you think in your heart, so are you. It did not say as you believe in your heart, did it? It did not say as you know in your heart, did it? It said as you think in your heart. Not of your conscious thinking, but of your subconscious thinking, what's been programmed in your subconscious mind. See, all of us from birth to about 12-ish will be coming. We're becoming. Right? And what we're becoming, we know not of. We're becoming the sum total of the thoughts that are in our minds, which come from the people, places, and things that's been the major influence in our lives. So understand, if we grow up like I did in poverty, my nephew there, William, and his wife Shakana, we were sitting there having dinner one day, and I was telling them how poor we really were. You know, we couldn't afford the other OR, and they just didn't believe that. For real, I mean, it's okay to laugh, because it's funny. You know, I'm not poor no more, you know. But what happens is, I had to get that poor mentality out of my mind. Because when you have a mentality of such, you do what you've been programmed in your mind to do. So what happens then when you have a poor mentality, I thought I was going to spend my way to riches and wealth. Not going to happen. Right? Wealth is not determined by how much money you spend. Wealth is determined by how much money you keep. Right? And so, but what happens, especially if you were like me that grew up poor, couldn't afford the other OR, right? What happens is we want to then spend to make ourselves feel wealthy. I mean, how do we determine wealth in our society? For real. By what? Stuff and things, how we look. If you look good, you know, you got on the nice suits. I mean, I see people coming out off with $500 jeans on.
Mm-hmm.
Broke. Say broke.
Broke.
Yes. You got to put the on the broke. When you wearing $500 jeans and don't have $5 in your pocket, that's a problem. Right? So I had to get this mentality out of my mind. That's why I wrote this little book entitled, If You Can Control the Thoughts of Your Mind, You Can Control the Destiny of Your Life. If you don't control the thoughts of your own mind, then someone or something else will control your destiny. Right? And so what happens is it took a long time for me to get this process down because I did not understand why it was. I did what they told me to do. Went to school, worked hard. Y'all remember Eureka Mill, right? Yeah. I worked in that bad boy 6 years while I was going to York Tech trying to get a degree in computer programming. You know why? When I got out of high school in 1980, they told me if you want to make money, you need to get in computers. Well, you know what? I wanted to make money. So I got in computers. Hated it. How many do stuff you hate? Get a job just because you got to get some money. Listen, if I had enough time, I'd tell you about some other things as it relates to that. But what happens is, I did that, met my wife at York Tech, we got married, bought a little condominium, got a piece of the American dream, got 2 cars, stuff and things, and something strange happened about the 15th of every month. All the money ran out. There you go. And there was too much month left over at the end of the money. How many ever had that problem before? Too much month left over at the end of the money. So something is not right. You're brilliant people, you're intelligent people, you work hard, you got a good education, but that's not it. If working hard was the answer, then all of us be rich by now. Mm-hmm. For real. If education was the answer, then, you know, we'd be rich. But the universal principle has nothing to do with education or work. It says, as you think in your heart, so are you. So we've been around negativity, and we've been around people who are broke, busted, disgusted, and can't be trusted. And we've been around people who are, you know, spending everything they get. That's the kind of mindset we're going to have, because from birth to 12, we're becoming. And then somewhere around about 12-ish, we start then being what it is we were becoming. Wow. Think about it. Somewhere around 12-ish, you started acting, you know, your mom said you're smelling yourself. Right? You start doing what you want to do. You start being your own person. You start wanting to make your own decisions. Somewhere around 12. We're not as obedient as we were. And whatever habits we develop during that time, we start operating in them right then. If we want to buy stuff, we get our allowance or go do some other things and try to get stuff. We're not going to talk about the other things. But what happens, we start our spending pattern. We start our habits of how it's going to work. Now, I don't know about you, but how many of you ever been in a situation where by the time you get old enough to get some credit, you already got credit? Don't raise your hand if that ever happened to you. Babies got credit. I'm just saying. Right? And then we do, listen, 1990, let's see, I graduated in 1980, 1999, 1989, I'm sorry, 1989, 1979. Trying to get my mind together here. It's been a long time. I'm 53 now.
Look good.
Thank you, sir. Feel good. Yes. In 1979, do y'all remember Cedar Grove? Mm-hmm. They started this rural expansion. And so what they were going to do, if you had $500, you can get a down payment on a house and get you a 3-bedroom brick house with a carport. Y'all not old enough to know that. But that's what was happening. We was living in a big green house by the fairground. Got the $500, I worked in the mill, put the money down, we got the house, and they was having this rural expansion, pretty much like what's about to happen now. About 3,000 jobs about to come to Chester. This building right here looking to build some houses in Chester. And what happens though, is that we end up getting left behind because our mindset doesn't change from the mentality that we have. And those folk come in and build all around us and leave us in the hood.
So true.
Is that right?
So true.
Why? Because we have the mindset of renting instead of buying. We have the mindset of looking good. See, one movie that I love, that I never forget a part of, Wesley Snipes, the movie White Man Can't Jump. Woody Harrelson said a black man would rather look good losing than to look bad winning. Huh? That's a true statement. Say rather look good. I don't care what, we gonna look good.
That's true.
Huh? Hair dead, nails dead. I mean, Gucci down, shoes shine. I mean, listen, we doing it. Look, I don't care what. We gonna look good. I mean, I know, that's me. I was there. It didn't matter. Didn't have two nickels to rub together to make a dime, but boy, you walk out the house, you're looking like you got something. Yet broke, busted, disgusted, and can't be trusted, but you look like $1 million.
Wow.
Right? Why? Because it's the mindset in which we have. Until we get our minds changed, nothing else really matters. That's why I'm spending the rest of my life trying to free the minds of my people. You know why? Because we have been brainwashed, and we live in a society that is not conducive for any of us to maximize our potential and to fulfill our purpose. We have a mentality of lack and limitation and mediocrity and want. And it's okay. Why? Because we've been programmed by the things that enter into our ear gates and our eye gates. And it looks like it's okay because the majority of us are having the same issue. And so what happens then, bondage becomes more attractive than freedom. And when someone comes to deliver us, to attempt to set us free, we then do what? We attack or resist the very freedom that we desire. Why? Because the mind automatically resists change. What you do, if you want to change in your life, you have to write the word change. Draw the word conflict. Draw a line underneath it. Write the word conflict, because there can be no change without conflict. And the conflict that arises comes from within. Because we desire to move beyond where we are. But why are we not able to move? It is because once we are conformed and conditioned to a way of thinking, the most difficult thing in the world now to do is to change that way of thinking. Once a mind is conformed, once a mind is conditioned to think in a certain way, the most difficult thing in the world to do now is to change that mind. And then we want change, but when the conflict arises from within, because we're people who like to take the path of least resistance, when the conflict arises, we then revert back to our old ways and not being able to affect the change that we desire. Am I making sense?
Yes. Once the mind is conditioned, it is hard to...
It's almost impossible.
Right.
Once a mind is conformed to think a certain way, it's almost impossible now to change that mind. Because as I was sharing with you, from birth to about 12-ish, we're becoming. From about 12-ish to about 18-ish, we start being what it is we were becoming. And if we don't get it fixed somewhere in here, we don't change it somewhere between 12-ish and 18-ish, between 18-ish and 25-ish, we then conform to what it is we were being. And once that mind is conformed to that way of thinking, then that's pretty much it. You're going to then think that way for the rest of your life. And it's going to be difficult. You ever heard old people say, well, you know, you can't teach old dog new tricks? This is why, because they want to change. How many want to change something, have tried to change something in your life, and it's been difficult for you to change? You know that there is a better way. You know that you should be better off than you are. You know that you should be further along than you are. Tell me, why do you think that it's almost always we come back to that place? For example, I call this our comfort zone. This is where we know how to live. This is where we know how to function. This is where we know how to operate. This is how we can manage in this area. We understand, the rules in this area. The boundaries herein, we can work in that, right? Anything outside of this, we become fearful, uncertain, doubtful, and very skeptical, okay? We become fearful, uncertain, doubtful, and very skeptical. We become what I call FUDs. And now what happens, right, when we start doing things outside of our comfort zones, and the fear sets in, the uncertainty sets in, the doubt sets in, and the skepticism sets in, guess what then happens? We then revert back to our place of bondage. This is what I call our place of bondage. And so what happens now, bondage becomes more attractive than freedom. Bondage becomes more attractive than freedom. And we then remain in the bondage that we desire to get out of, because the conflict that arises when we attempt to do it, and we can't affect the change that we desire. We'll talk about it. We'll politic about it. We'll sit around and talk about what we want. But the wanna-doers and the gonna-doers are the never-doers. What you are speaks so loud, people can't hear what you say you are. And so what happens as we talk about what it is that we want, we can hardly ever affect it, because our mindset have to first be changed. You have to get there mentally before you get there physically. The physical manifestation of what it is you desire will never occur until you first get the image of it in your mind. So the first thing I had to do in my life was to get the image that I had grown up with in my hometown of Chester. I had to get that out of my mind. Y'all probably know my brother. Big Al, they call him Big Al. Alan Worthy. My sister, Sheila Worthy. My other brother, Frederick. You may know Corey L. Worthy. Those are my brothers and sisters. We all grew up in the same place. However, if you don't get out of the environment that you're in, or manage that environment, and if you don't manage or get rid of some of the people who are making these negative deposits in your life, right, then you're going to end up in the same condition that you found everyone else in your family and your friends in. Why? Because seed produced seed after its kind. Seed produced seed after its kind. So what happens if we grew up in a situation, if we don't get out of it, right, then we end up being a duplicate of it. So what happens all the time, my family and friends that I meet when I bring them to Chester, right, when I go to the family cookout at Brenda's house, get on the grill and put my hat to the back, I'm not going to spend the night. I love my family. You want to fight, talk about my family. But I ain't spending the night. Why? Because they're doing some things that's not conducive to a positive living. You feel me? See, what happens is, some of the time, our biggest enemy is our family. You have to separate yourself. If you want, listen, if you want to fly with eagles, you can't hang around with chickens. For real. You know, and what happens oftentimes, we end up, you ever heard this story about a lion who thought he was a sheep? For real. Listen, a lion was captured as a little baby cub, right? And he was raised on a sheep farm. And all he ever knew was sheep. But he knew it was something different about him. Like we know something different about us. We know that we should be better. We know we should be doing more. We know that we shouldn't be in this place. But if this is all you know, this is all you can be. So this lion who thought it was a sheep grew up with the sheep. But he was bigger and stronger and faster. And he didn't understand that. He just knew he was a sheep. So one day, a lion who knew he was a lion came out of the woods, out of the jungle, right? Get ready to have some lunch with some sheep. And the lion, who thought he was a sheep, did what he naturally does. So guess what? When the lion that came out of the jungle, who knew he was a lion, to eat some sheep, the lion who thought he was a sheep got in front of all the sheep and talking about, bah! The lion who knew he was a lion stopped his hunting expedition, looked at the lion who thought he was a sheep and said, bah! Said, what in the world are you doing? So the lion who knew he was a lion let out the biggest roar he could find. And something ignited in the lion who thought he was a sheep. It was the first time in his life he identified with something different within himself. And what happened? The lion who knew he was a lion grabbed him, pulled him over to the water, let him look at his reflection in the mirror, water, and then he looked up at the lion who knew he was a lion. And for the first time in his life, he understood who he was. But the problem, mentally, he was still a sheep. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem oftentimes when we find ourselves where we are. We wake up and we desire to be more. We wake up and we desire to have more. We wake up and we desire to do more. But mentally, we are who we are. You can only be who you are until you become someone else. And the only way you can become someone else is to change your mind. If you can change your mind, you can change your life.
All right.
Yeah, write that down. That'll take you from that. Listen, if you can change your mind, you can change your life. I had to change my mind. If you don't change your mind, you'll remain in the same place that you're in. Right? So the lion who thought he was a sheep had to make a very serious decision that day. Because the lion who knew he was a lion took another big roar, walked back into the jungle, left the lion who thought he was a sheep standing there with a decision to make. If he were to go into the jungle where he'd never been before and learn how to be the king that he is, fear, uncertain, doubtful, very skeptical. Or he could go back to his comfort zone, back to the bondage that he was accustomed to, knowing now that he was a lion, living among sheep. That's what happened with us. We were born to rule and to dominate and to subdue, but yet we are living in lack and limitation and mediocrity, perpetrating a fraud as if though we got something that we don't. You were designed for greatness. You were designed to win. You were designed and created for purpose. And what we have to do is we have to break the mental bondage that we're in. See, the problem is not that you don't know stuff. You know stuff. You're brilliant people. You believe stuff. There's so much energy and power in this room. Just with those of us who are here, I can feel the energy. I can feel the passion and the desire to move beyond where you are. But what happens, what holds us back, is nothing external. It's everything internal. See, it's those external things that have developed us over time that have us to this place. And once a mind is conformed, let's say this is a mind. It's been conformed and conditioned to think in this way. Then that's it. Now, if we were going to break this mind down, what would we have to do? Talk to me. Tell me something. What do we have to do? You have to change it. How? How are you going to change it?
Rebuild it.
You have to rebuild it. But before you can rebuild it, you got to tear it down. And if you rebuild it the same way, then what? You didn't change it. That's what happens oftentimes. We'll change our outer world. We'll try to change our location, but your location not going to do anything. Remember I was telling you a story about the big greenhouse we lived in on Jeter Street? And we moved to the house out there on Cedar Grove. Well, let me tell you something. Within 1 year's time, because they did not help us to learn how to change our minds, within 1 year time, my family had turned that house into the same house we left. I don't care what if you move from Kalamazoo to Timbuktu, if you don't change your mind, whatever you were in Kalamazoo, you're going to bring that with you in Timbuktu. And you're going to turn Kalamazoo into Timbuktu. Why? Because what's in you come out of you. Right? See, you're going to get in you or attract to you what's inside of you. See, we've been taught and conditioned to believe that opposites attract. Opposite does not attract. Like attracts like. Like minds always attract like minds. And so what happens, if you don't like what you're getting in your life, if you don't like the results that you're getting, then you got to literally change your mind. And you can't just change your mind arbitrarily by waking up one morning and say, you know what, I'm going to get a new mind. Not going to happen. You know what, I love the Lord, but don't even go to church thinking you're going to get a new mind. Huh? Because here's what happens. When you get boned again, you know, a new bone again, you know, yeah, all that did was get your spirit alive so you have a consciousness and awareness of God. That puts you in a position of learning how to live a saved life. See, when your spirit is born again or made alive, then your soul must be converted. Your soul, your heart. It says, as you think in your heart, yes? Right. Don't ever forget that.
As you think.
As you think, so are you. And so what happened is, what is your heart? That's not that thing that beat in your chest. Your heart is actually your soul. Your soul consists of three parts. Your soul consists of, number one, your mind, how you think. Your emotions, how you feel. And your will, what you do. Does this make sense? Okay? Now understand something. This little man, how old are you, man?
8.
8. Shake my hand. All right, you got a good handshake too. This is a powerful young man, 8 years old. What's your name? Malachi. He got a good name too. Malachi, 8 years old. Now, this little mind, this little soul, have ear gates and eye gates, which are the gateway to his soul. We have to protect that. There's another scripture that says, guard your heart. With how much diligence? All diligence. All. How much is all? Well, why are we tripping? Why are we not sure? I'm just saying. It said all diligence. And so we let the 8-year-old Malachi allow TV, that idiot box, that music, all these things go into the ear gates, eye gate, the gateway to our soul, and then by the time Malachi become about 12-ish and start beating everything that all that stuff been showing him, then we're going to be mad at him. And then we want to beat him. Talking about, you know better. How you going to know better? You can't know better if this is what you become. And even if you know better, you can't do better, because what happened is as you think in your heart, so are you. It's not as you know in your heart, because how many know better? Come on, show your hand, you know better. Yeah, why you ain't doing better? Because it's as you think in your heart. It didn't say as you know better. How many believe better? You believe better, don't you? It didn't say as you believe, it said as you think. That's why you got to get control of your mind. And so what happens, understand what I'm saying. Now, here's the thing, here's the process. When our ear gates and eye gates are open, and the gateway to our souls, right? And that word think, right? That word think is from the Greek word shah, which means gatekeeper or doorkeeper. Well, what happened is our gatekeeper, doorkeeper, have been sold out to the enemy, which is the devil, that trick us subtly and conforming and condition our mind. That's why we're taught, do not be conformed to Satan, the devil, the world. But be what? Transformed by what? The renewing of what? Your mind. So all this thing has to do with the mind, but we don't get taught this. I had to figure this out for myself. Right? I went to church, learned the Lord, but I'm telling you what, I was still broke. I had some questions, comments, and concerns. And church folk didn't like me because I had some questions, some comments and concerns. I used to ask my mama, how we going to make it? Daddy, don't, we ain't got no money. What? Well, the Lord will make a way somehow. How? Do it while I'm hungry. I'm hungry. He's talking about the Lord. I don't, feed me till I won't no more. That's why they don't invite me to church, because when I talk about it, they won't let me come back. I'm just saying. So, listen, am I making sense? That's what I want to say. Okay, because if it make no sense, it make no dollars.
Wow.
So all this nonsense we doing, that's why we broke. It won't make no dollars if it make no sense. So we got to start making some sense so we can make some dollars. Okay, so I'm making sense, right? Are you thinking? Okay, because that's my job, is to cause you to think. Not just you don't know how to think, but to think beyond what you are accustomed to thinking. Okay, so I'm about to finish up because my time is about gone. I don't have enough time to tell you everything I got to tell you, but I'm going to have to stop right here. So here's the deal. When you get a thought process going on, this is the last thing I tell you. We're spirit beings, right? Right. And we live in a body, right? Right. And our body is governed by 5 senses: taste, touch, see, smell, and hear. Our soul is made up of mind, will, and emotions. And our spirit is made alive when we accept the Lord, yes? Right. And so here's what happened. The soul becomes the receiving center. The soul receives signals from the physical world, our flesh, and it receives signals from the spiritual world, our spirit. And so what happened, our spirits are trying to tell us what we should do, but our body really controls what we're going to do. Why? You know, what?
Come on now.
Oh, I was thinking about that money, man.
Say the last part again. What did you say?
Your soul becomes the receiving center. And it receives messages from the spirit realm and also from the flesh, the world, the physical realm. Our bodies are governed by taste, touch, see, smell, and hear, 5 senses, right? And so what happens now, when the body sends the soul a signal, it then creates or strikes a thought in your mind. And then that thought generates a feeling, an emotion. And then that emotion fuels the will to do something. Y'all heard that song R. Kelly say, my mind keeps telling me, but my body keeps telling me what? Yes. And what you gonna do? I don't see nothing wrong. Yeah. My body keeps up. My body. So what happened is, even though you know, and R. Kelly really didn't understand what was happening. It wasn't his body it wasn't his mind that was telling him no. It was his spirit that was telling him no, because your mind and your body work in concert with each other. Whatever you feel in your body and your mind get together to do it, you're going to do that thing. Mm-hmm. You're going to do it. My mind keeps telling me no. My body's calling me. Here I come, baby. Yeah, right? Am I telling the truth? Come on, talk to me. Yeah, I know about it. So here's the thing. I'm out of time. Here it is right here. So here's what happened. So we have to get all this reprogrammed. We have to get all this kind of reconditioned. So we have to get this thing transferred, renewed. And that word renewing is made up of 3 grammatical constructs. The prefix re, which means return. The word new, which means original. And the suffix ing, which means to continue. So what we have to do is we have to continue to return to the original state of our minds. Right? So we have to return to the original state of our minds continuously, because our mind is in a fallen state. It's been conformed to the world way of thinking and the world's way of doing things. And so what we have to do now, we have to transform our mind. And how are we going to do that? We have to do that through positive affirmation. Y'all need to get my book. It's got those 7 principles in it, because they ain't giving me no more time to wipe back that talking about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Talking about, your time is gone. You got to let it go. So do you have any questions, comments, concerns of me? Because I'm really out of time.
As you think you're in